runners, most of us are always working to advance our biomechanical efficiency and safeness. You may be surprised to know that there is evidence supporting that footfall or footstep security and stability during running may be under the mechanical leadership of running with a dropped eye gaze position, which may launch a range of energy resourceful biomechanics. In simple terms, you may actually run much better if you stare down at the ground more so than staring straight ahead. It is very striking to me how very little eye gaze position and its influence on running form gets talked about and discussed among many coaches, because eye gaze position during running may be a vital mechanical component that may actually have a very sizable impact on your overall running performance and injury prevention efforts. Your eye gaze position when you run may actually be a very strong column that may help stabilize your balance during running. It may also reinforce biomechanics that may result in less resistance, less brake force duration, and more forward momentum flowing in. For one, maintaining an eye gaze position that is focused down on the ground roughly 3 feet to as much as 30 feet in front of you may help constrain or limit the amount of front to back postural sway of the torso, which may help catalyze smoother forward momentum, because looking down at the ground during running may help draw and tilt the head more forward, which may help shift your torso more forward or more in front, so you end up getting a better forward lean, which in turn may help chisel down the brake force duration period. For example, if your eye gaze position is all over the place, if you're looking all around at everything in front of you, up in front of you, or beside you, this may dramatically influence head position, which may increase postural sway and may shift your torso front to back more frequently, which may in turn create more braking and may get in the way of helping you press more forward with more swift, more sustainable forward momentum. This is why I really want to emphasize that eye gaze position during running may be part of a larger coordinated strategy of the body that may help save tremendous amounts of energy. And I will discuss in a moment as to why a dropped eye gaze position during running may help conserve energy. I really want to underscore that potentially the most effective eye gaze position during running is looking down at the ground just a few feet in front of where you're stepping, rather than continuously staring straight ahead up at the horizon, as spending a greater proportion of your run gazing down at the ground instead of locking your eye gaze position up at the horizon in front of you could be a catalyst for sustained forward momentum and may help organize your biomechanics in a way that could be more mechanically favorable on many fronts. You may care more about the potential outsized role eye gaze may play in creating more efficient biomechanics when I tell you that most of the best distance runners in the world, most of which these runners are from Kenya or Ethiopia, we see firsthand of how many of these runners really tend to spend a greater proportion of their runs looking down at the ground. And from this, we can certainly see the impact eye gaze position, specifically looking down at the ground, not continuously staring straight ahead during running, has on running form and running efficiency. Because if you look very closely to how these runners run, many East African runners who do stare down at the ground during running are typically gliding more efficiently. They have a smoother engagement and a smoother physical exchange with the ground, unlike many of the runners who look up with their chin up and typically stare straight ahead. These runners often look choppy, tense, stiff, rigid, and less mechanically smooth and rhythmic as compared to many East African runners who don't continuously stare straight ahead, but rather look down at the ground more. So keep in mind, and let me be clear, that the East African runners, who many of these runners often run more fast, more steadily, more smoothly, and often yield greater performance outcomes and running efficiency, may be increasingly led by their downward eye gaze position. Another example of how a downward eye gaze position during running may provide continued mechanical support and may be more efficient than staring straight ahead during running came from a 2015 study published in the Journal of Experimental Biology. The researchers investigated the relationship or influence visual feedback from eye gaze position had on leg swing mechanics prior to touchdown during running. Based on their data, it turns out that where you look when you run may dramatically influence your biomechanics. Specifically, eye gaze position during running may affect the way your legs and feet interact with the ground. The researchers discovered that when runners ran on uneven surfaces while visually scanning the ground, meaning that these runners had a dropped eye gaze position like we so often see in many elite East African distance runners, the visual feedback from the dropped eye gaze position during running led to a decrease in muscle activation in the shin area or the anterior tibialis, which may spur less tension, thus less energy may be needed to keep the muscle engaged. In other words, the shin area appeared to be more relaxed and less tense and overworked on account of reduced muscle activation when the runners ran with an eye gaze that was dropped or more focused intensively on the ground. This is where energy may be saved and not wasted, as low muscle activation is generally correlated to less energy utilized by that muscle to keep it re-engaged. So for some reason, running with a dropped eye gaze naturally led to a reduction in muscle activation in the shin area, which may be very helpful for runners who grapple with shin splints, since there may be less energy demands exerted and projected on the shin if you were to run with a dropped eye gaze. That's something to keep in mind, but ultimately, the evidence really does hint that eye gaze position during running may have a big hand in reshaping your biomechanics for the better, changing how your lower leg responds to the ground at each step. The researchers concluded that the changes in muscle activation in the lower leg or the shin area was driven purely by the feed-forward system, which largely relies on visual feedback, which in turn prompted the body to initiate more cautious, better prepared foot-ground interactions during running, which essentially tells me that a dropped eye gaze position during running may certainly provide more safe mechanical assistance that is potentially correlated with less energy expenditure by virtue of a reduction in energy expensive muscle activation in the lower leg, particularly the shin area. Another way to look at it is seeing where you are stepping when you run may provide the brain with somewhat of a subliminal cue that may help reflexively prepare the leg to land more securely and more safely, more energy positive with the ground, because when you can see where you're stepping, the brain literally links this information from the ground to more fully anticipating the next step with expanded awareness, prompting the leg to execute more anticipatory reactions, potentially yielding sturdy, safer footfalls, especially when running over uneven terrain, making trail running less punishing because more secure mechanics may actually be put into place just by scanning the ground with your eyes. Now, in contrast, the lack of the kind of visual feedback or optic information from the ground when you stare straight ahead, up, off, and away from the ground with your eyes could make trail running very risky business, because staring straight ahead continuously could potentially freeze up efficient leg swing mechanics on the basis of not being able to clearly see what's in front of you and approaching you on the ground may deepen mechanical resistance in the leg, potentially causing the leg to respond less quickly, less reflexively, and less safely when needed, which could place an overwhelming burden on footstep stability, especially during a long endurance trail run. Given the landscape trail runners face, it would make a lot of sense to look down more at the ground in efforts to help carry forward the sustained activation of very important reflexes within the lower leg that may drive more optimal landing stability. Now, conversely, when you avoid looking at the ground during running, doing so may disengage these reflexes, potentially resulting in less reactive, potentially more careless, and more impulsive footsteps during running. Another important finding in the study that I really like to highlight is that the researchers discovered that when the runners looked down when running, ground contact time was reduced and flight time was actually increased, meaning that their step rate or step frequency or cadence, which is all the same thing, increased, meaning these runners took shorter, probably lighter footsteps, which help closes the door on greater force production and impact amplification on account of the feet are spending less time lingering around on the ground, potentially resulting in a smaller spectrum of impact force variables from adding up. So if you switch your eye gaze position from staring straight ahead to looking down more often when you run, orienting your eye gaze position down more at the ground between 3 feet to even 30 feet down in front of you to wherever feels comfortable to get the whole scope and scale of what you see in front of you on the ground may unlock networks of biomechanics that may help you tackle destabilizing terrain, helping you respond more quickly, reflexively to tripping hazards. It may assist in mobilizing more stable, secure footfalls, and may be very resourceful from a running economy standpoint. It provides all this and more, which may pay off right away. Again, given the landscape many trail runners face, this makes a lot of sense. This is why I think it's very important to place special emphasis on looking down on the ground when you run, especially if you grapple with sore shins or if your biomechanics just don't feel right at all when you run. Dropping your eye gaze during running may be that missing link that may harmonize more fluid, effective mechanical outputs, and even more important, it may bring safer mechanics on board by coordinating safer leg swing engagements that are more readied for the next step in a way where it may expand a more stable base for the foot when you run on uneven terrain. I posted the research article that I just summarized in this video down below in the description box, along with another video I did on how running with the dropped eye gaze may enhance running efficiency. I hope you enjoyed this video. For more tips pertaining to the latest research regarding biomechanics of running, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, where you will also stay more informed about the health and performance benefits of barefoot running and minimalist running. And don't forget to follow me on social media, and I provided all of those links down below in the description box as well. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Have fun out there on the roads and trails. Bye for now.